welcome to Joshua 2415 Outdoors. All right, hello and welcome back to Joshua 2415 Outdoors. Oh my goodness, I've been so excited. I've been withdrawing from doing podcasts. You need to put that phone on silent, sir. Well, here we are back with episode 4. This one is just going to be, we're going to tell some stories. Some good old stories.
I like that.
One might be a crazy one. One just might be about regular old things. We'll see what happens.
Let's just let it go where it goes.
Just let it fly. All right. You can start us off if you want to, Mr. Comer.
All right, you want a crazy one first then? Let's go with the crazy one first, and then you tell one, and then I'll come back with a very memorable hunting story. I mean, this was a very memorable hunting story, but
I got a very memorable fishing story.
Ended up in catastrophe.
Oh, gosh.
In 2012, I was bow hunting in one of my favorite places.
Many years ago.
Many years ago in the land of dinosaurs. I was bow hunting at a farm that really is one of my favorite farms. Not just for the quality of deer, but for the amount of deer. So you hardly ever have a sit there where you're not witnessing lots of wildlife, whether it's deer or bobcats, just coyotes, just whatever. There's just always something there to watch and to keep you occupied while you're there. It's just many memorable hunts on that farm. I've been hunting that farm for about 20 years, but in 2012, I had taken a doe that afternoon, and it didn't go very far. It went about 50 yards. I watched it fall, and I got down and worked it up, got it all field dressed, and was working my way toward the truck, and I had to cross what seemed like a very easy crossing on a ditch. And I had crossed this ditch, I don't know, hundreds of times, thousands of times over the years.
But this time was different.
But this time was definitely different. And I stepped across this ditch to drag the deer across. And as I stepped across, I kind of lost my balance, and it just in my mind right quick, I thought, just, no problem, just step back. And it was a very narrow ditch, but it was very deep. Well, as I stepped back, I missed the other bank, and I went down in the ditch. And when I went down in the ditch, my right leg went directly down through a group of tree roots.
This already does not sound good.
It was not good at all, because as I went down in that and I fell to the right-hand side, I heard the pop of my knee breaking in half.
Oh.
And in the adrenaline-filled rush, I guess, of the moment, I very quickly just started grabbing for anything I could to get myself back up, and I didn't feel any pain at that time, but I did hear what sounded like a shotgun blast to me when my knee popped.
Oh.
And I grabbed just hands full of briars and multiflora rose and started pulling myself up out of the ditch. And as I got to the top, I thought, well, that really was not so bad, but I realized that my knee straightened back up as the roots caught my foot again, and it had literally broke my knee over 90 degrees. So as I got to the top of the bank, in my mind, I was just going to go ahead and stand up and walk it off like, a man's supposed to just walk it off. But as I stood straight up, my knee went ahead and went back sideways.
Oh,
and,
gosh.
It was a very, very severe injury. And I was still probably 250 yards from my truck. Now, I did have a cell phone with me, and but I also had a deer with me, and I needed to get that deer to the truck, and I knew I had a broken knee.
You did. You went out the deer?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
I went ahead and reached back across and got a hold of the rope, and I got the deer across the little ditch. And I kept dragging that doe and crawling and dragging and crawling and dragging and crawling, and I did after quite some time. I made it to the truck, and by that time, my knee was pretty stable because my leg was swollen so badly that
they're talking about dedication to the hunt.
Well, I had a deer, man. I think
You got to get that meat.
I had to get that meat on. And I had a cell phone the whole time. I could have called for help, but I knew if I'd called my wife, it would have just scared her. And um, I knew at that point, it wasn't life threatening. It was just felt life threatening at the time, but not life threatening. So I got to the truck and managed to hold on to the bed of the truck while I got the dough loaded up in the back, and made it home. And I did use the cell phone when I got to the driveway. I called my wife and said, I have a small problem I need you to come outside and help me with. And she came outside, bless her heart. It's always good to be married to a redneck woman. She saw very quickly that I was not going to be able to take care of the deer, so she drug the deer out of the back of the truck. She butchered the deer. She put the deer up, and proceeded to find out exactly how bad my knee was. When I went to the doctor, I found out that I had tore the ACL completely in half, tore the MCL completely in half. There was absolutely nothing left holding the knee together except a little bit of muscle and the skin. And the doctor asked what I was going to do because it was going to have to be fixed. And I explained to them that I was on the first day of, or I was a week away from my deer hunting vacation. Rutcation only comes around once a year. So I was not about to miss that. And
You still went, didn't you?
I still went. Yeah, I killed a really good deer the next week.
Gee,
I wore a knee brace. The next morning I went to work early and went into Walmart back prior to COVID when things were right with the world and Walmart was open all night long.
Yeah.
And I got a knee brace that had the steel brackets in the side and strapped it on there at the shelf and I made it to work every day until my vacation started, and I hunted the whole next week. And then I ended up killing a really nice 8-pointer that week during shotgun season and killed another doe, I believe. But they ended up putting that knee back together in February because I was so stubborn that I was going to finish out the rest of my season that I put it off long enough that they couldn't get me in right after season then. So I walked on that knee in a brace from November the 12th right at 5 o'clock in the evening until February the 3rd. And that's when they totally rebuilt the knee. Now, not a new knee, but donor ligaments and everything to rebuild everything. And within 2 weeks of having the knee rebuilt, sheds are on the ground. So I did not tell my wife exactly where I was going, but I did go shed hunting and hobbled around in that straight leg knee brace there for a few weeks, picking up a few sheds. And I only picked up 5 or 6 in those coming weeks because it was so difficult to walk around. But out of all the years that I have hunted, that is the worst injury that I have ever had while I was out hunting. I've fallen a couple times at different in different situations, but to get hurt, it really, this is the moral of the story. It really makes you take more careful steps with everything you do from that point on, because you realize that you are not 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And, I'm only 5-something foot tall anyway, and I'm fat. So it's a bad combination. I'm like an upside down weeble wobble. The weeble wobbles, they wouldn't fall over, but if you stand a weeble wobble on its head, it's going to fall over. And I'm top heavy, so I fall a lot. But since that, it was a very good lesson to learn, because I'm very careful now in each and everything I do, from hanging stands to getting deer out. It's a hard lesson to learn, but it's one you will value.
What dedication that you have for the outdoors to, with a broken leg, still get out there and go shed hunt and deer hunt.
Well, it was an addiction at that point.
Yeah.
And it really was an addiction for me at that point. That was prior to me having set the boundaries in place of deer hunting was not the most important thing in my life.
It's real easy though. If you're a hunter and you've been out there in the wilderness and you've encountered the wildlife and you felt that feeling of what it's like to be out in the woods, it's easy to see how someone can get addicted.
Oh,
That
absolutely.
addicted. It's
Absolutely.
like we talked about last episode. The feeling of euphoria you get just being out in the woods, like you don't experience that anywhere else. Just gosh, every time I talk about it, it's just it's a feeling like no other.
It is, but you do have to set your boundaries, and we discussed that before, because like anything else, deer hunting can become an idol to you.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
at that point, looking back on it now, I chose to continue to deer hunt and then to shed hunt right after. And my knee has not been the same,
Same.
nor will it ever be the same, because I did not do the things that I needed to do. I put deer hunting ahead of my own body.
yeah.
Really.
Keeping yourself safe and
Yeah.
keeping yourself well enough to go back out there
Yeah.
and do those things continually for the rest of your life. If
Yeah.
that's it,
Yes.
should be priority probably.
Yeah. Let's hear something crazy from you.
I don't have anything. We'll save the crazy one, but I'm gonna give my first hunt, the first, because I've done it, many times, but I've not had a lot of opportunities to take a good shot. But the one deer that I actually did get to harvest happened to be a doe. I'm still waiting on my first buck. Now I'm waiting on, now that I've learned archery and getting into bow hunting, which I'm so excited about. I'm so obsessed with bow hunting. Now I'm looking for my first kill with a bow. But the very first deer I killed, I went with a buddy, and we went out to, I think it was his aunt's property, and they had a lot of wooded area that he would go hunt. And it was my first experience with getting a deer to come in, and it was shotgun season, so I had a shotgun with me. I was up in this blind that they had built in this tree. I got to use that. There's another buddy that went with us, and they were we're all in separate areas, of course, shotgun season, we too close.
Was that your first experience in a tree stand?
That's my first experience in a tree stand, really getting to experience a deer coming in on me and taking my first shot. All that was a
Cool.
first for me. So that's why I think this is a good a story to share. I remember waiting. I had a call with me. I did a couple calls. I don't think that's what really worked. And let me dispel a myth, because I don't believe that's true. I had peed in the wood like 5 minutes prior to this doe walking in. I had held it long enough, because, you always hear, don't do it, don't do it. Well, I couldn't hold it anymore, and I did it. And not too long after I peed in the woods, there come this doe trotting in. And it come out of this thicket that I happened to be set up next to, probably about 60 yards away, right? And I just kind of was in awe, kind of lost in that animal for a second. And then I realized, I'm going to take a shot. This is going to be my first kill. I didn't see anything else coming in, but man, if it had not been my first deer and I'd been so excited, I had an opportunity to probably take something more. I don't know, and I will never know, and that's fine. But I took the shot. I aimed right behind the shoulder. It was broadside perfectly, just kind of nose down, maybe looking for something to eat, whatever. And I took the shot. It was a double lung, heart, everything. It still ran 150 yards.
Yeah.
Which shocked me, being my first kill. I thought, if I place it just right, it's going to go down. That's not always true, you find out. It still ran a good 150 yards at least. But after I made that shot, I heard in that thicket, because I couldn't see in that thicket, more of them running. So I don't know if there was a buck behind her or what. There could have been, and I'll never know that now, which that's fine, because for my first deer,
Oh, yeah.
it's still meat on the table.
Yeah.
Took it, we harvested it, got some good meat out of it. That's what I wanted,
Yeah.
and that's what I got. So that's the story that I have. Nothing too fantastical, like breaking my leg in a ditch or anything. So now, if you want to go and tell your most memorable hunt, what's more a special hunt to you?
I have many, many memorable hunts.
One that stands out.
I know that as we go, we're going to talk more about different hunts and stuff. But one that was really, really meaningful for me. Um, I'm not sure. I think it was 2009, I believe. Um, my son was my oldest son was in basic training, stationed at Fort Campbell, and I was no, he was stationed at Fort Knox. He was stationed at Fort Knox for basic training, and I was hunting a piece of property that I had been an overseer of for 20 years at that point, and I had the only access to that piece of property, and it was a dream place. It was 80 acres of just timber and ridges and thickets and draws, and it was attached on two sides by other large tracts of timber, but the lay of the land made this just a very special place where the bucks would just continually be traveling back and forth through the rut, looking for does, and there was a large group of does that lived on the property itself. But it was the first day of my vacation that year, and as I got to the property and parked, I saw tire tracks going in the logging road, and I knew that should not have been there, but I was ready to go hunting, so I was going to head to the back of the property, and I got out of my truck and got my bow, and I was headed to the very last stand that was on that property in the very northeast corner. And I heard a vehicle coming from back on the property, and this really expensive SUV, very nice SUV, started driving down the logging road toward me, coming from the back of the property. And I thought it was trespassers, so I stepped out in the middle of the lane to stop them. Well, it was a realtor, and the owner of the property that lived in Florida was in the passenger seat. And they explained to me then that the property had sold. None of this was ever mentioned to me prior to that. I had no idea the property was even for sale, that the property was sold, and I had 1 week to get all of my stands off of the property. And now I had stands all over that property, and I had been hunting that property for over 20 years. So I was absolutely just heartbroken, and I no longer wanted to walk all the way to the back of that property to that stand. And I talked to them for a minute, and they left. And I thought, I've got to stand right here in this first big valley between two real steep ridges. And I had taken a lot of deer out of that valley over the years. So I went on down to that stand and got up in it. And I sat there, and I was just so down at the thought of this property that, I had never paid a dime to hunt it, but over a period of time, you get to feel like it's just yours,
Yeah.
You just, it seems like you know every tree and know every nook and cranny on the property. And that afternoon, I sat there, and I was really, I was depressed, but I was also very thankful for all the years that I had the opportunity to hunt that property. And I saw one deer that evening, but that one deer, it ended up being a 152, 153 inch 11 pointer. And he came in from the south. It came saddling a ridge down, and he was not going to come within bow range. And I gave him one grunt with my buck-four, and with that one grunt, he was just in that right mood, and he turned and he came directly out in front of me on a trail at 25 yards, and I was shook. I mean, he was really wide. He was really heavy. I could see he had some abnormal points.
You got that buck beaver creeping.
Yeah, had it creeping up. But he had a big body. He had everything, and I got drawn on him. And as I shot, something happened. I'm not sure whether I just got nervous and shot a little bit forward and a little bit high, or what happened, but I ended up breaking that deer's spine toward the top of its shoulder, and he hit the ground like just a box of rocks.
Right in the thoracic vertebrae.
It was great. I got to the ground as quick as I could, and I went over and I finished the deer. And it was a great, an epic hunt. It was the last time that I got to hunt the property, basically, because I pulled all of my stands the next day. So it was the end of an era of getting to hunt that property, but it ended up also my oldest son had surprised us and come home that weekend from basic training, and he and my youngest son both came and helped get that deer out of the woods. It was just so special to have both of my sons with me on. At that point, it was the biggest deer that I'd ever killed with a bow. Um, it was just an amazing evening, and to have two young guys, and I wasn't that old then, but to have two young guys that was in extremely good shape to drag that deer up out of that bottom, it was an awful bluff to go up. But I can still see in my head, I can see each one of them boys grabbing hold of a horn and just taking off up that bluff like they was just dragging nothing at all.
Must have been such a relief for an old dinosaur.
It was. It was a great relief. It was a great relief knowing that I was not the one having to drag him up out of there. But I cherish the picture. My dad came out there. My wife came there, and I still have that picture. I keep that picture close to my heart of us all gathered around that deer, and both of my boys there with me with that. It was a monster of a deer for me. A lot of people, they gauge their trophies by age, or gauge their trophies by inches of antler. And, I love big antlers and I love old deer, but the trophy to me is the entire experience. It could have been a doe.
The memory that you just made.
Yeah, it could have been a doe. It could have been a fork-horn buck. And just the idea that both my sons were there at that time, to be there for that perfect time, the last time I could hunt a property that I've been on for so long, and to help me get that animal out, basically get it out for me, and to be able to watch these two boys that were grown men now, that, I used to drag their deer, and now watch them drag my deer out. It was just an amazing experience and an amazing buck. I mean, I still to this day, every time I walk in the living room and I look at that European mount, it takes me back to that moment of watching those two boys drag that deer up that bluff.
What a special moment. I'm glad that you shared that one with us.
That one brings tears to my eyes almost.
I could see that. That's a special one. Well, we appreciate that one. Now let me go back to a crazy one.
Crazy. Give me one crazy.
Get out of that emotional.
I'll go out some tears. I don't want you to do something fun.
I don't want you to be a mess. So let me put you in a better mood. No, this one goes back to fishing. I don't remember if it was high school or middle school. I think it was high school. A buddy of mine, we would fish all the time. We go down to this creek right by his house, and we go fish it, whatever we can get. We've walked that creek. We've gone seining for minnows many times in that creek, and crawfish and all that. This particular day, we walked down to that creek bed, and we got in a little bit. There's a little sandbar, I guess you could call it, that we'd stand on and go fishing. We're both casting little beetle spins, I believe it was. I don't remember the bait exactly. Casting them out there. I got mine hung up. I don't know what he was using. He had a treble hook on his. I know that for a fact. And you're getting to that part.
I see where this is going.
I got mine hung up out there, a ways down the creek, casting out there on some branches, and I wanted to go get it. So I waited in the river, creek, whatever, went to go get it. And I told him, I said, just please don't cast while I go get my bait. Let me get the bait first. And well, he had in his mind, he's gonna like tease me. So he's gonna cast right beside me and scare me. And he did. He cast it right beside me. The wind caught it or whatever. He says the wind caught it. And it blew it. It got right in the back of my head. And that two of those three treble hook, two of the three hooks on that treble got me in the back of the head.
That's
and I'm kind of like, ow.
Is that what's wrong with you now?
It could be. I don't know. But, yeah, I remember hearing that thump and it hit right in the back of my head. And I was like, what are you doing? I said, don't cast. And we got out of there, and he cut the line off, and I had this bait hanging out of off the back of my head. We walked up to his house, which was, I don't know, maybe 60 yards from the creek. We walked up there, and I told him specifically, I said, "You're not going to call your crazy uncle to come do this, are you?"
Exactly who he's
And that's exactly, no, that's exactly who he called to pull that treble hook out. It was a lot of fun, regardless of the fact that it hurt. It was a lot of fun, and it was a good time. And gosh, something I don't think I'll ever forget.
I would say not.
Could you forget getting a treble hook stuck in the back of your head?
Well,
Gosh, but what a time, man. We go fishing all the time in that creek. It was a lot of fun. We'd walk for miles down that creek just fishing and wading and just having a good old time.
you know, those are memories that you'll have from now on.
Oh yeah, I can't wait.
Even if the crankbait knocks some of your memory out.
I can't wait to take my boys and my daughter when she gets old enough, when she's here,
Yeah.
to go do some of those things and make memories with them. It's going to be a good time.
You know, there's another epic story that that needs to be told, and it's John 3:16.
Yeah.
God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. You know, that is the ultimate story, and that's what we base our lives around there. That
The
story
of all stories.
Yeah, it's the story of all stories. He had something so precious, but he gave it up so freely so that we might have everlasting life. And, you know, we can have fun, and we could talk about all of the things that we've done in the outdoors and all the crazy stuff that we do at work, or whatever our stories might be. But without that knowledge that Jesus Christ is Lord, none of it matters
And it doesn't mean anything
whatsoever.
And that's what I appreciate about your ministry in Joshua 24:15 Outdoors, and the idea that you are out in the outdoors, in the wilderness, in his creation, where you get those just, like I said, those euphoric feelings of being out there. And you're out there doing that, and the whole purpose of Joshua 24:15 Outdoors is to bring glory to God in the outdoors, and with your experiences in the outdoors. And I love the idea of that. I love Joshua 24:15, the message that is of, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And I'm so blessed again to be a part of this ministry, and I can't thank you enough for that.
Yeah,
Thank God enough for that.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to death to have you, and I truly believe that it was a God thing that sent you here and gave us the relationship that we have. And the whole thing about Jesus built relationships. So then we should build relationships, and we should build relationships that are based on serving him, I believe. I mean, we're going to have some relationships in our lives that are maybe not centered around God, but the richest relationships that we will have in our lives and the best stories that we will ever be able to tell are stories and relationships that are centered around God and the things that he allows us to do. And then through that, we could tell funny stories, and we could tell hunting tips and things that happen in the outdoors. And if that's the thing that draws you in and makes you want to listen, that you might, get a laugh out of us, or you might hear something that might benefit you in the outdoors, then that's great. But there's always going to be some message there that is going to be something that's eternal, something that is a whole lot more valuable than how you can go out and kill a deer, or how you can go out and find antlers, or, what's the best Brahma pressure to, yeah, I can't even get that out.
That's all right.
But how, all of these tips and everything, these are all great when you're talking about deer hunting, but none of these things are eternal. None of these things are going to be something that will lead somebody to a new life. And I would rather have a life of Jesus is my Lord and never pick up a bow and arrow again or deer hunt again than to hunt the rest of my life
and not know him.
and not know him. Because there's always eternity.
Yep.
There's always eternity. I want to spend eternity worshiping him. If he's got a tree up there that he's willing to put a tree stand in, I'm good with that.
Maybe his version of a Matthews bow is
I'm doing that. Maybe there's a target range up there that I can sling some arrows in.
Maybe he's got a heavenly bow up there waiting for you.
He may have. But without him, nothing else has meaning.
Nothing matters.
Nothing matters.
We are nothing, and nothing we do means anything unless we have Jesus Christ.
That's right. That's right. And it's simply you call upon his name. Call upon his name. Confess your sins. He is willing to forgive you of your sins, and he is willing to give you that eternal salvation.
It's free.
Free.
You don't have to do anything.
Nothing.
But accept him as your Savior.
That's it.
And grow in a relationship with him. That's it. So that's going to do it for us. I hope I dropped a bonus episode. I think it was Friday morning. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'm going to keep those coming.
Yeah, that's a good word.
So long as God gives me the messages and the vision, I'm going to keep those rolling. Also, we have just a little sneak peek of next week's episode. Brian is going to give us a shed hunting episode, and he's got a message in that's going to be really good. So we look to see you in episode 5. We thank you for joining us in episode 4. Also, we got some shed hunting content coming as well to our YouTube channel. So we hope to catch you there as well. Thanks again, and God bless you.
God bless you.